We're on the air. Welcome to the February 20th business meeting of the Deschutes County Board of Commissioners. I'll call it to order, and our first order of business is Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming today. Our first item after the Pledge of Allegiance is citizen input. And if anyone wants to speak today, please fill out a blue form like this over here and turn it in to Sharon. And we'll give you 3 minutes to talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. We have 2 requests this morning, and so we'll start with those. We'll start with Jeff Jordan, and then I'll be followed by Randy Lunsford.
Morning.
Morning.
My name is Jeff Jordan, for the record. I own a business in Terrebonne, Oregon called the Pump House Bar and Grill. I'm here today to ask you for your help as commissioners in this project that ODOT is trying to do to our community and to the citizens of North Deschutes County. I stand opposed to this. When you take a 2-lane highway off Cinder Butte and a 2-lane highway off of the High Bridge access area off 10th Street and you come back into 2-lane, that funnels your traffic really shallow. Coming into the town of Terrebonne, their proposal is to do a couplet on a northbound and a southbound interchange. That would basically adhere to people trying to get around each other than back into a 2-lane. In a runway situation, everybody's trying to get around each other at the same time. Then coming through Terrebonne, you come back into a 2-lane segmentation. In proposal, it would be nice to have those done 4-lane, but the money is obviously not allocated. In a perfect world, it would be nice to just bypass the whole town of Terrebonne, and we probably wouldn't be sitting here talking a whole bunch about this all the time. As far as the interchange at Lower Bridge Way, we all know there's an issue and a problem there. And I think ODOT really needs to put more emphasis on that interchange due to first responders, fire and rescue, and law enforcement officers. That right now, in their plan, is that they want to make you take a right turn, head southbound, go into Terrebonne, turn around to go northbound to Madras or Jefferson County or Portland or wherever your destination may be. I find this very, very interesting that they would do this concept. I've hired my own traffic engineer, and I've retained legal counsel with Phil Garillo with Davis Wright Tremaine. I've gone back with Phil many, many years and have a good working relationship. We're business people, we're negotiators. And what I'm asking for help on is whatever we do or whatever we propose is never right in the mind and the eyes of ODOT. And we've been working very diligently with them and trying to reach out. But whatever they propose, they can do no wrong. And so in the interim, I guess I'm asking for help to facilitate some kind of orientation, what's best for the community, best for commerce, and best for the public safety of North Deschutes County. And I really appreciate your time. I know what you guys do, and I appreciate it. I live in Jefferson County, 5 miles to the north, next to McFeeder's Turf, so I drive that highway every single day and go into Redmond. Don't worry, I pay more taxes in Deschutes County than Jefferson County. Don't tell the other commissioners.
No. Okay. Okay, good.
There's a thing in my mind in conclusion. I only have 3 minutes, but I can go on for 3 hours. There's a word called deception, and it's a very eerie word, and I just feel that I'm being deceived by my own tax dollars, and I'm having to use my own money to fight my own tax dollars. So I hope that maybe Mr. Grillo can facilitate a meeting with the 3 county commissioners, some of the property owners, business owners, and ODOT, and negotiate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you,
Thank you
Jeff.
so much.
So next will be Randy Lunsford. And then we've got 3 other requests, followed by Phil Grillo.
Good morning. My name
Morning.
is Randy Lunsford. I own Ferguson's Market in Terrebonne, Oregon. I'm here to discuss the outcry for the community that they've come to us, asking us to let their voices be heard as well with regards to the Terrebonne refinement plan. Appreciate all that you are going through for us. I know you've been hearing from a lot of individuals for 3 minutes here and 3 minutes there. As Jeff stated, I think there's a majority of us who could sit down and go into many hours worth of what we've been told, how things are going. So it's on the record. I'm just going to read the cover to this, and then we'll have a pop quiz afterwards.
So you gave us a handout, I believe, right?
Yes.
Okay, we'll pass that out now. Sorry, we haven't passed it out.
Yeah, don't panic. All it is the signatures and addresses.
Do you have one, Sharon? Okay. Do you want to pass it down there?
So
Okay.
attached, you'll find a simple poll conducted at Ferguson's Market in Terrebonne, Oregon. Ferguson's Market has been a family-owned and operated and serving the Terrebonne community for over the last 48 years. Multiple generations of families shop in the store and has become the Cheers of Central Oregon. It is a place of gathering and discussing issues facing Central Oregon. Most all patrons feel safe sharing their thoughts and ideas without ridicule or judgment of others listening in. Due to the closeness with the community, it seemed logical to allow the public to voice their opinions regarding ODOT's plan for creating a couplet in Terrebonne. The Please Let Your Voice Be Heard questionnaire was created via community request. The community wanted a simple method to voice their opinion on the proposed couplet. The questionnaire was placed on 2 counters in the market. Customers were not solicited nor questioned if they wanted to comment. Many conversations were inspired as well as quality suggestions and alternate traffic designs. This questionnaire was posted on February 4th and was available to the public for a little over 2 weeks. Of the 421 collected signatures, 409 are against the couplet, 11 for the couplet, and 1 was undecided. Those signatures included residents of Bend, Madras, Redmond, and Sisters. The majority were from Terrebonne and Crooked River Ranch. The questionnaire provides an overwhelming community response against creating the designing couplet in Terrebonne. A few interesting conversations inspired by the questionnaire that were worth noting was to resolve the traffic and safety issues at Lower Bridge and the Highway 97 interchange. This interchange must provide for ingress and egress to both north and southbound traffic without creating additional distances or traffic maneuvers. Maintain 11th Street is a local road that provides the community easy north-south movement through Terrebonne. The community also asks that I give a special thanks to the Deschutes County Commissioners for helping us to preserve the local community of Terrebonne. So at their request, you have their signatures, and a lot of these people, what it runs into is a lot of people in Terrebonne cannot, or Crooked River Ranch, can't make a 10 o'clock meeting in Bend, and they were feeling kind of left out. They would love to fill the room, to be able to voice their opinions, but they're hoping that their signatures with their signed addresses will help let you know where they stand.
One thing I want to say, since we've had people come to our meetings on several occasions now, which is great. I mean, it's a great way for people to get in front of us and talk. Our understanding is the process will be that once a final approval is sought, we would have a hearing or a meeting where we discuss it. And maybe we'll talk about trying to have that on an evening or, where it's more convenient. And so we are aware of that, and we appreciate anything that people are getting to us. We do get comments, I think. So we appreciate that.
If there's some way you can present that to the public, it's one thing for me or Jeff or somebody else to say, oh, the commissioners aren't being talked on the side, or ODOT's not chewing on their ear and getting all the groundwork laid out prior to the plan being presented. There is a true concern and fear of the community that, we're sitting out here, but ODOT is state. ODOT has the chance to talk more, to present more, to, if lack of a better term, smooth the process along the way before all of the pieces and parts are brought to.
When just, we can each speak for our own contacts with ODOT or whatever. I mean, as you know, I'm on the advisory committee, and I've tried to make I think I made the last 3 or 4 meetings, and have tried it, but mostly just to follow the process and give, I mean, I'm not really trying to direct anything, I'm just trying to be involved and get feedback, but I'm personally not meeting with ODOT on the side and don't have any preconceived notions. I've tried to deal with the issues that are raised and think about them with my own experience and bring that perspective. And I mentioned before the meeting that I'd understood you're having some ongoing discussions maybe with ODOT now, and we'd heard those were on a Wednesday. Those are a very difficult day for us to get to those meetings, any of us, me as advisory committee or the other commissioners, if they want to go, because we have morning meetings and afternoon meetings. So for us to get to Terrebonne for a 1 o'clock meetings is on a Wednesday is real difficult. So, but I'm trying to stay engaged. I know the other commissioners, we can each say what your thoughts are. But
So just real quick, we know, there's a constant stream of vehicles coming north to south through the town, and it really makes it hard to go back and forth. The state legislature put in this X amount of dollars that is the seed money for the discussion. The community is engaged now. So, let's work together, work through the process. This is a ODOT, state facility. Deschutes County, of course, is the crossroads, and we're here to, communicate. So thank you very much for joining us. Yeah, I'm not doing anything with ODOT specifically. I see some of the folks in passing, but we are here for the people, for sure.
And they appreciate that. And
I was actually at the meeting at the church at Crooked River. I was at that meeting. There were over, I think I counted like 200 people or something. It was a huge, the room was full. And I'm actually someone who uses Lower Bridge on a fairly routine basis. And I always know that it's a prayer if you get to turn left and when you get to turn left. But I do understand that for emergencies, that was going to add considerable time factor when you needed to go north there. So, no, I've tried to stay pretty involved in this. I attended the ODOT meetings last summer too. So, I understand what the community is talking about. I talked to a lot of people down there.
And Patty, that's been shared with the people that, do come in and talk about this, that you did attend Crooked River Ranch. Phil, it's been acknowledged to as many people as we can. You have been on the advisory committee, and that by no means have you ever tried to sway anything, any way, shape, or form. You've just collected the facts and the information. I think the biggest challenge is, as even Jeff pointed out, when Jeff brought in his own highway engineer individual and was capable of designing an interchange at Lower Bridge that did allow for northbound traffic without additional moves or distances, ODOT's was, well, you just can't do that. Versus working with them. I think, if anything, there's the reality in my mind, and I guess I should be saying it's a feeling, that ODOT is not willing to sit down and figure out where are the problem areas and how can we work those, versus we're just going to make this an auto-centric, moving the vehicles through, and whatever else falls out, falls out. So any help we can get in having them listen to that there are other engineers looking at this going, there are answers. And thank you for the time.
thanks for your
Thanks
time.
for joining us.
Thanks, Randy.
Next we'll have Phil Grillo, and after him, Sarah Douglas.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Phil Grillo. I've addressed you before. I'm here representing Jeff Jordan and his family. As Jeff mentioned, I've worked with both Jeff and his father, Bill, who's with us this morning, for a number of years. This is not our first rodeo when it comes to dealing with ODOT and couplets and traffic issues. What I wanted to do is two things this morning. First, I want to tell you kind of what we've been up to. When I addressed you about 2 weeks ago, we were getting ready for our first workshop that happened later that day. At that workshop, we presented a couple of alternatives, and you'll see those attached to the Clemo memo on the back, Figure 1 and Figure 2, that are 8.5 by 11. These show basically a refinement of the interchange at Lower Bridge that we showed in our white paper that we published about a month or so ago. These are certainly constructible and viable alternatives. We got some good comments both from ODOT and from the public at that workshop. And so we've been busy putting together sort of variations on a theme, and I'm not going to go through all those, but you'll see them in the larger figures that are attached. We're going to spend some time with those this afternoon at our second workshop at 1 o'clock. In response to what I'm hearing today, I think maybe it would be best if we had our next workshop, the third workshop, in the evening on a day and time that works for any of the commissioners that are able to attend. I certainly am aware of the public meeting law requirements, so I understand if it may be just one of you that can attend. But we were going to schedule that at Crooked River Ranch, and so what I'd like to do is work with your schedules and Crooked River Ranch schedule and basically get it back in the chapel since we will be praying when we're there. So that's substantively kind of what we've been doing. I would just want to talk just for a couple minutes, or not a couple minutes, but just shortly about process. I wanted to kind of reiterate what both Jeff and Randy have said, which is that ODOT has been giving us some feedback, but it's almost continually been sort of negative feedback. And I think we are having the feeling that, look, it's either the couplet or the 5-lane, and that's it, nothing else. I'm hoping that we're making some progress there. I mean, obviously, I'm the advocate in the room, and we're trying to push that. And we want your support to help to push that so that what we're doing is coming to you with a refined preferred option that we can all basically live with. Nothing's going to be perfect. Everybody's not going to agree, but we have probably over 1,000 folks in the community that support this type of an arrangement that we've been talking about with the Safe Terrebonne Coalition. What I'm going to suggest is this. After our next meeting, our next workshop, which we'll want to do to accommodate your schedules and the Crooked River Ranch folks, is we'd like to kind of conclude that level of workshops. That would have been 3 workshops focusing on the lower bridge, the southern part of town, and then sort of traffic calming kinds of things along the highway and other things. Then what we'd like to do, I think, is see if you would be interested in scheduling a work session for us. And I would say a work session that hosts both ODOT and representatives of the Safe Terrebonne Coalition. I think we're focused enough that we can have a meaningful conversation about this, and I'm hopeful that maybe we can get on the same page before that with ODOT. If we can't, we're going to be looking for some direction from the county in terms of what direction we're going. We're trying to be collaborative here, but if we're not getting anywhere with ODOT, we need to know a little bit more about where the county stands on this, because it's both a land use and a transportation decision, as I'm sure you know. So I appreciate you letting me speak a little over my time limit, but I wanted to give you a report and see if you have any questions of me.
Okay.
Okay.
Any comments, Commissioner Dare?
No, I heard Mr. Gorilla's presentation that night. So, and I realize it is a bit of a work in process, and I'm glad you're getting together with ODOT. I mean, hopefully that's a step in the right direction.
Bone, any comments?
Thank you very much for joining us. This, as I say, the citizens are engaged, the discussion's happening, so we're going to work through the process together.
Mr. Grillo, just a couple questions. One is that, so we'll review what you've given us before. Is this different than the white paper? It's kind of an up that we received a few weeks ago.
It's variation on a theme. It's
Okay.
the same theme of of an interchange that has direct access in all directions.
Okay.
And you'll see some of the varieties, and if you read the.
So these are all different, as I look through them, it looks like they're just different design ideas that you're working on currently.
That's right,
Okay.
but they're all the same basic concept, which was essentially figure 1 and 2 to the Clement memo. So yeah, we're just doing variations on a theme at this point to see what we can do to fine tune it.
Well, a couple thoughts I have. One is we'll probably discuss at a work session, I don't know if it'll be today or next week or whatever, probably what our process would be. Certainly I'm encouraged you're working together, because I think it'd be a shame if we have this money, allocated to the Terrebonne area and that intersection, and we don't get to a plan that works. So I do think, since it's, because we have other areas in the county we're trying to get money that aren't allocated. So but I am interested in making something, sure it's something I think we all are, works for the community. I think we'll have to talk about the process about work sessions involving both parties. That what had been laid out to us before was something would come to us and we just would be approving it. So maybe that'd be great if we can actually be in the process, but I think we'll have to talk with our legal counsel about that as well and see the process. But
And I'm
it's
happy to
encouraging.
reach out to county council and to,
Yeah.
talk about that as well.
And I'm happy to try to work a schedule where kind of an updated meeting like you're having. I couldn't make the one at Crooked River Ranch, but if there's another one coming up, I know I'd be happy to come.
So would a Thursday or Friday evening, like a Thursday?
Yeah, we'll need to check, because we serve on other boards. Like this week, I have there's the Redmond Airport Board, and we'll look at our schedule maybe and get back in touch with you and ODOT about a time that might work. We can probably do it in the next 24 hours.
Right.
That works.
Probably, yeah, that'd be great. And probably what we'll do is let the community know today at our 1 o'clock that we're tentatively set for next Wednesday at 1 o'clock, but we may move that to accommodate one of the board members' schedules if they want to.
The other thing, one way that the community, if they want to see what we're thinking, this is all, on video, online at Deschutes.org. People can look at our meetings. It's pretty easy if somebody wants to look at the interchange, or if you want to spool it up at a meeting somehow, it's easy to see our comments and how it's looking. That's a remote way to do it. One of our mothers, I'll not mention, does watch our meetings. From Hawaii, so.
For 8 years, ever since I've been elected, ever since we got the video going, she'll email me once in a while and have a comment about what we've been doing. So yes, she does.
Well, it's that or Wheel of Fortune.
Or if my colleagues.
It's pretty easy, yeah. One other quick question, just because I know it's come up in the past, is the issue of cost. And Mr. Jordan mentioned that, the problem with going from 2 lanes to 4 lanes to 2 lanes, that's been discussed. And then the idea of a bypass. Is there numbers currently on what it would take to do the whole thing in 4 lanes if, where it wouldn't be this widening? Has that been thrown out at any recent meetings?
The best way I can answer that is I know in the county's transportation system plan, the TSP, there are rough estimates for widenings within the 20-year period of the TSP. So, there are numbers in there for that, but I don't think they were specifically allocated just for the 1.7 segments north and south.
North and south, okay.
But I think we could probably get some rough numbers.
I was just curious what that number is.
Yeah, I think we could probably get rough numbers for that, and I'll be happy to look into that a little bit more. So.
Okay, great. Thank you for attending and your comments today. Next, we'll have Sarah Douglas, followed by Amber, is it Hasek?
Hi, my name is Sarah Douglas, and I'm here, again, it's my second time here. I'd just like to let you guys know I hate doing this. It's really uncomfortable for me to be here, but I appreciate your time very much, and I'm here to speak against the proposed Jared Robinson's proposed Second Amendment sanctuary ordinance, which I know you've been asked to consider. And primarily, I'm here as a citizen. What motivates me to get here is the fact that my neighbor, Valerie Peterson, was killed on January 16th, about 200 yards from my home. And it's really become something that I'm personally concerned about in terms of making sure that we're doing all that we can to have sensible, common sense gun violence prevention laws. And I just today wanted to draw your attention to something that I saw in the news on February 13th regarding similar efforts that are taking place in Washington State right now. And the Washington State Attorney General came out in this news article on the 13th that I wanted you all to be aware about, stating that it was his intention to defend all state laws that are gun violence prevention laws, despite the fact that some sheriffs in Washington State are claiming that those laws are unconstitutional. And so in his statement, the Washington State Attorney General talks about any refusal on the Sheriff's Department's efforts to enforce laws that have been passed in Washington State. The Attorney General would consider the sheriffs to be liable if the refusal to enforce those laws resulted in any crime. And I would imagine that I would think that the Oregon Attorney General might take a similar position, and I would just want you all to consider that when you're considering Mr. Robinson's proposed ordinance, in that, again, it would expose the county to potentially liability, cost incurred as a result of that, of course, for the taxpayers. And this is something that's going on in other states aside from Oregon. So I wanted you to be aware of that and the fact that it is in the news and that it does expose the county to additional liability. And I hope that you will consider that when you're considering whether you want to consider his ordinance.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks for your time.
And then Amber, is it Hussick? Okay.
Thank you, guys. I've cleared my schedule to talk about this for as long as we have to talk about it for work, so I will probably be here every single meeting with the public forum to also talk about the Deschutes County citizens for Second Amendment rights. I find it ironic I'm talking about this today when our schools have to have extra police protection. I would be curious to know if guns were removed from the house of the student that was arrested. But besides that, the author of this ordinance is the president of the Oregon 3%. They don't like to call themselves a militia, that's fine, but their opening statement on their webpage specifically says, our primary function is to bring together like-minded patriots who believe in our Constitution and are willing to take action in defending it with no compromise. So my question to you is, as you consider this, do you consider yourself to be part of our government? Because if you consider yourself to be part of our government, which I think we probably all agree you are, this is a threat to you guys. This is not something that is just a simple Second Amendment, everybody, there should be no laws. If the county doesn't follow the gun laws, the city of Bend still is going to. You're putting officer lives at risk if the county department decides to step back from enforcing state laws. You will put city police officers at risk, and I've spoken on this before, you will put additional firefighters at risk, and that includes my husband. So I will be here every day, every time we have a meeting, to remind you guys that you are government. You are the people that they want this to stockpile weapons against and take action against. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber.
Any questions or comments?
Just a comment. So, local governments, counties and cities don't have the authority to change the laws at a local level for the state gun rules. So just like you're providing comments to us in a public forum, the comment and the sanctuary ordinance was proposed in front of us. I'm just letting you know it wasn't my idea. It was something received. And this is interesting, watching the sides get defending different positions. State legislature, there's bills in Salem that are discussing this topic, and it's really not the domain of the Deschutes County Commission or a city council that has the authority to do this. Thank you very much for sharing your opinion.
You guys
It's not a discussion
are
at this
going to
point.
move it forward without voter signatures? Because according to their Facebook page, they name you specifically as being a willing partner to go beyond the gathering of signatures and just making it an ordinance amongst yourselves. And they name you specifically. on their
So,
Facebook.
yeah,
I know you have no control over that, but just to keep that in.
so, well, and is to say, well, this isn't a conversation at this point.
Okay. No problem.
Anything you want to add?
No.
Thank you for your testimony. That completes the citizen comment, or citizen input portion of the meeting today. We'll move on to our consent agenda. Anything you want to change, add, or pull? Commissioner Dare?
No.
Commissioner DeBonne, any
I'll
changes?
support, I'll move approval of the consent
Well,
agenda. You had.
Yeah, I'd like to have a short discussion about 2
Okay.
and about 3. So, and I wanted to add I think, an easy amendment to 4, which we could then put,
Yep,
I'd move to
that's fine.
amend that, but,
So I'll move item number 1.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Commissioner Dare?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll bring up item number 2, which was the board signature of order number 2019-007, declaring forfeiture of county personal property surplus and authorizing sale. And if one of you want to come up and, I just had a couple questions. It was just kind of interesting reading the list.
I'm Randy McCulley, Fleet and Equipment Manager, Road Department.
So thanks for coming today. And this is, of course, basically the foreclosure and sale of, or I guess the approval of sale of personal property, which includes vehicles and some other things. A couple questions. It looked like most of the vehicles were older. I was curious about the 2 Priuses and why they're on. I mean, they have low mileage. It's supposed to be one of the most popular cars now. What's going on there?
So the department made the decision to surplus those vehicles because the low mileage is due to low utilization. And things they listed were, they're underutilized in the winter because they're 2-wheel drive and they're low. That's not the primary reason, but that motivates them a lot.
And these were both with, was this with health or?
Oh, yeah.
So the health department had 2 Priuses.
So
Okay.
they move clients often, and the Priuses are very low, and the seating is low. When you have a heavy client, to move them in and out of the vehicle, it's very difficult, and they require assistance, where like a Subaru Outback or other SUV is the right height to move somebody in and out. So because the preference, if they're moving clients, is to use other vehicles, these were just the utilization was very low on them.
Interesting. Do you know, are there other Priuses in our fleet?
Yes, there are.
In the health department?
And
Yeah, they still have some, and some are still usable in certain areas that don't involve clients, but just certain ones in certain areas, you can only shuffle so many to that end, so.
So I guess my thought on this is that, this is kind of I guess I'll call it a forward-looking agenda about electric cars and gas consumption, et cetera. So rather than selling these, would these be something we'd want to use in a different department? I mean, they're both way under the mileage of vehicles I drive at our house, 68,000, 5,000, 60.
8,000.
Yeah, 68,000, 65,000. I mean, those are, and my guess is I mean, I don't know what the resale value is, but I know having sold a couple cars recently, used cars don't have the same value because people are buying newer cars. So I'm just wondering, is there a reason to keep these? I imagine they were twice as expensive originally as similar capacity cars when they were purchased, would be my guess. So
They're really close, but it's still, that would be my goal, is to repurpose vehicles. Like there's a Colorado in here from assessors that was an underutilized vehicle, and there were 2 of them, very low miles, and we were able to repurpose that one into facilities. But there has to be a calling from a department. I talk with them, but we need, as a group, and that's like with the new fleet policy, it gives me a little more authority to help with those decisions and
urge.
No, I don't mean it like that, but I mean, we work together, but it's still, the department at this point truly makes the call on replacement, right?
Do any Priuses have 4-wheel drive? No. Okay.
They're
All
front-wheel
right.
drive, and they're low.
Yes.
It's not, they still get around in the winter. It's not like they don't work, but the preference is, to an SUV. We had a couple accidents
It
with
used to be, we all had real-wheel drive, 2-wheel drive. When I came here, I had a car with that, so, but yeah, I understand, so it's just not as preferable for design okay, well, I'm not against what you're doing, I'm just thinking through it with you, and because it's kind of an interesting, I mean, most of the other cars have quite a bit more mileage, it seems like, and so that was a low mileage, and I'm not, so,
Well, they
anyway.
are 10 years old, so that's, I mean, I noticed that also. At that 10-year mark, I figured, okay, well, this does, it didn't jump out as.
Well, I'll bet we're buying some, we buy brand-new stuff, and we get, 10 years with 65,000 miles isn't that
nothing.
high.
I
So,
don't disagree.
I have like our
Oh, yeah.
individual cars.
No, I'm with you, yep.
So-
No, mine's got 350.
Mine's 205,000.
If we don't have a home for them and they're underutilized, they're costing us money, so it's.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I get that, that's why I'm not gonna object to it, I'm just
So
talking
how
through
many are
it.
left, do you think, Duran, did you know?
Exact count, I'm not sure. I would say we probably have a dozen.
A dozen still, hybrids?
Yeah, these are the first two to move.
Okay.
But my recollection is they were in the 40,000 range back in those years.
For
weren't
us?
they, or-
No, they were under 25,
Oh, really?
22. And a new Subaru Outback right now is 24,970 is what we're paying for. So the
Yep.
gap isn't terrible between the two.
Great.
Okay, so with that, that's the only questions I
I'll
have.
move board signature of order number 2019-007.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Commissioner DeBonne,
Yes.
Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
and board votes yes. Thank you. Okay. Item number 2 on the action item then would be the consideration of board signature resolution adopting amended bylaws of Deschutes County Public Safety Coordinating Council. I don't see Mr. Hales here. I was kind of struck with this. So this is an amendment to the bylaws of the Deschutes County Public Safety Coordinating Council bylaws. There's the
Tom and
bylaws
I
of
are
those.
involved with that. Tom and
So, yeah, and I think I'm the alternate member on that, and I wasn't aware there was a meeting March 5th, so I'd like to make sure I'm on the
okay.
calendar somehow. But it references here that on a January 2nd, we'd get given guidance that due to the new appointments process, we should have 4-year appointments. And I've got the minutes from that meeting, and I don't recall us discussing moving to all 4-year appointments. And so I want to discuss that further. I don't know what new appointment process we're talking about, and I'm not sure I'm in support of all the citizens being 4-year, because that, in a sense, it would basically mean, as commissioners go, you'd make an appointment, maybe when you first get in, you don't know much, and then it stays for 4 years, and so I'm not sure so I'd just like to vet that more, so I'm not in favor of this today. And I don't remember that discussion, and the minutes, I've got them here, don't refer to that discussion.
You want to bring it to a work session?
Yeah, so I'd like to
That's fine.
talk about that at a work session.
Great.
And I don't know, it also begs the question if have been some requests for appointments that are pending, and maybe we can get that too on Monday if we have a meeting.
Yeah, there's just been a long participation by a few individuals, reappointed every 2 years. So, yep, we can talk about it.
Talking about, I just don't remember that in the works. I looked at the minutes to see if I'd remember something, so, okay. Then the 4th item on the consent agenda, I just wanted to add something to the legislative minutes, just so it's clear if anybody reads these to see what direction we're working on and what this ADU bill, I think, is going to get a lot of interest probably as the legislature goes on. And Nick Lelek had reported this is the Senate Bill 88, accessory dwelling units, and there's that issue of that the original Senate bill would preclude those in high-risk fire areas. And the sentence currently reads, which would include Deschutes County. And what I'd like it to read, which is what I think you really reported, which is the fact, is that which under current definitions would include all of Deschutes County. So because it's not set in stone that it has to, but that's the concern that it currently does. And so I just want to, if people are tracking it, and I don't know if people, I mean, I do know people read our minutes, so I just thought that would straighten it.
I support that.
Would that, and I
I
just
second it.
move to amend that,
I'll make a motion to approve.
and we won't have to resubmit the minutes, okay?
With that edit.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Dare, do you second that?
Yes, I do.
Any further discussion? Okay, Commissioner DeBonne, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Commissioner Dare?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. So that concludes the items on our consent agenda that have been moved to the action items. The next action item, which we're 10 minutes late getting to, but that's just fine. We had some good comments this morning.
Let's acknowledge what you're referring to. So
Yeah.
in the minutes, in the agenda setting system, we're putting down estimated times
Yeah.
in support of a specific time that an item might come up at our board meeting
Right.
for people to be able to get here maybe 20 minutes after it starts or try to get here an hour into it for their item. So
Yeah,
just
right.
acknowledge,
That's
this is the
great.
first time we've seen this on our agenda.
Yeah, and that's good for anybody watching or following our meetings. We're gonna talk a little bit about our scheduling on agendas at today's work session to see if we can't try to put more times on it so it's not as inconvenient for people to sit in our meetings. And I guess when we have citizen input first, we're not sure where the meeting starts, but I'll bet we're pretty close otherwise. So that's good. So that's, if people look at the agendas, they'll see the times. So we'll be discussing that. So the next item is consideration of board signature document number 2019-099, denial of wave seer marijuana production at 24350 and 24360 Dodds Road. And Matt Martin's going to lead us on this.
Thank you, Chair Henderson. Good morning, Commissioners. As introduced by Commissioner Henderson, this is the decision on a wave seer of Oregon proposal for marijuana production off of Dodds Road. The board deliberated with Commissioners Henderson and Adair present on the matter, and based on interpretation of Youth Activity Center and the corresponding separation distance from youth activity centers to marijuana production operations, the board denied the application. There are also additional findings relative to utility verification, noise, and applicability of the airport safety combining zone in the decision. Also want to note that this project also included a lot of record verification and a lot consolidation. Those two applications were not contested either in comment or contemplated by the board, and therefore those approvals carry forward and are noted in this decision. So happy to answer any questions you have at this point.
Commissioner Dare, any questions?
No, I have none.
Okay. I think it references that Commissioner DeBonne wasn't there for the deliberations. I don't know if you can comment or not at this point.
So, yeah, I mean, I would have voted differently. Youth Activity Center, 4-H activities, equestrian events on neighboring properties, that wasn't what I was envisioning when we put this code in place. These applicants are the growers that want to work in a publicly regulated system with a lot of light shined on the industry. Just acknowledging that I wasn't there for those deliberations, but it could be 2-1 if it was written up differently. But as I say, I wasn't in attendance that day.
Okay.
But I'll support it as written because I can support the 2-0 vote.
And, I think my comment as we evolve in trying to interpret the ordinances that were passed initially by the board in 2016, it's a cutout for something called a youth activity center, and my feeling was that the kind of activities near to this grow were significant enough to fit that definition, much as kind of a setback on schools or daycares are a factor. So I guess we'll, I don't know if it's an invitation really to always use that, but that's, in this particular case, that was the evidence I saw. So do we need to do anything just other than have a motion and a vote?
Yeah, this is a
Okay.
stable document unless
Yep.
there's proposed changes.
Okay.
So do you want to
So
move
I
approval?
move that we accept, we allow consideration of board signature on document number 2019-099, denial of Wayseer marijuana production at 24350 and 24360 Dodds Road, Bend.
And I'll second it.
Okay, and any further discussion?
No?
Okay. Commissioner Dare, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne, or no, and then just and the chair votes yes.
Well, I'll vote yes to support the document that says it's a 2-0 vote and I didn't attend.
Oh.
And I made my statement on the record, so I'm fine.
Council, is that the correct way to do it?
Appropriate, yes.
Okay. All right, and the chair votes yes. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Then our final matter on the action item, or agenda is deliberations to amend Deschutes County Code 716-105 regarding entities besides the county road department which can maintain roads which provide direct access to subdivisions in consideration of board signature of ordinance number 2019-005. And we have Peter Russell with us today.
Morning, Board. Senior Transportation Planner Peter Russell. You held a public hearing on January 30th on this matter. The one question the board asked, as did a citizen who testified, is whether or not we would have consideration of amending the text to include road maintenance standards. You closed the oral record that day, closed the written record February 6th. The only submittal we had was a memo that's in your packet from Chris Doty from the Deschutes County Road Department explaining why we don't have road maintenance standards. Both Chris and Cody Smith are here if you have additional questions. Otherwise, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have as part of your deliberations and consideration of signature of the ordinance.
Okay, Commissioner Dare, any questions?
No, I attended the hearing we were there.
Okay, Commissioner DeBonne, any questions or comments?
Yeah, just acknowledging this is putting in code what interpretation has been over the last few years. The one, public feedback you might expect is effort to open up that opportunity to put these road, a connector road like this in the maintained system. And I'm, just kind of intrigued that nobody mentioned that. Was there any feedback like that from any
Not as part of
subdivision in the past or anything?
No, the only time we had one of those is when the moratorium was done, and the original one was, I believe, was 2006, and Foster Road was kind of in there, and so that was allowed in the 2009 version of the road moratorium if you have an arterial collector. But I haven't had anything. They usually go to the road department.
Yeah, and through
I
this
see
process.
Cody has arrived, so Cody may have information.
I just wanted to add two things. The first one was just to keep in mind that the current moratorium only applies to local roads. It doesn't apply to arterial or collector roads. Those would be those more high volume connector type roads like you referenced before. So those, in all cases, those roads are intended to become county roads, do become county roads. The second thing I just wanted to point out is that the way that the text amendment has been written, it certainly doesn't preclude these roads ever becoming county roads in the future. Again, the intent of this was really just a housekeeping matter to align the code with the way that we've been conducting business since 2006. The way the code was written, it precludes roads that aren't in the county road system, which would include public local access roads. It also includes private roads, which our code allows in other portions, specifically in cluster developments and destination resorts. So, yeah.
And roads are required to be built to county standards when they're built for this subdivision process.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm very supportive. We've heard a lot of feedback, and it's gone through the public process.
So just following up your memorandum that you and, I guess all three of you, or I guess you and Chris Doty prepared. So this responded to our questions about should there be maintenance standards for new construction, and says does not have clear, concise, measurable standard to supply to other people once constructed and as is maintained through the application of best practices. So I don't know if we were asking to do something or different. I think you're just clarifying how it works, I guess.
Yeah, I think the question was, do we apply a maintenance standard to these roads that are built in that fashion? And whereas we have a clear and concise and measurable standard for new construction, for maintenance, we don't. And so it would be difficult for us to say, hey, you need to maintain this road to this type of condition. And so, we have our own processes. It'd be very difficult to, require that for small subdivisions especially.
So that's where the kind of rub is. If a local road district doesn't maintain it adequate to the some of the members of the road district or people driving on it, they come in and complain that that's not being upheld. We're not in charge of that. It's their road district. We made sure it was built right to begin with or met certain standards. But after that, that's the point of the road district, and we're not, there's a dividing line of responsibility there in terms of that.
Correct, and most likely this will be homeowners associations
Yeah.
that are in charge of, maintaining the existing roads that they built, and then that connector road out to the collector arterial. So they'll have their own boards and dues and people to
When
answer.
people ask us why their road is, that would be a question we would ask as well. Is the homeowners association in charge of that? Is a road district in charge of that, et cetera?
Correct.
Okay, good. Any questions, Commissioner Dare?
No, so it just means that Deschutes County make sure that it's done correctly to begin with, and then that's where we end our responsibility.
Exactly.
Any other comments from any of you? So, I think we get a motion to, let's see, we do a motion to?
This is deliberations,
Yeah.
acknowledging
Yeah.
questions and answers, okay?
Right. So is there any further deliberations? So we would close the deliberations if there isn't, and then we'd move on to, I guess, approving the ordinance, is that right?
Fair, you certainly can today.
Yeah. So there's an ordinance in our packet. So I'd seek a motion for approval of that.
Okay, I move that we accept the language of 247-18-000872-TA as proposed for board signature of the ordinance 2009-05, which would implement our approval.
2019.
Is that what you want to know? Is that the correct?
I think it's 2019-005. I think that's a typo.
Oh,
So that's-
2019, 19-005. Okay,
And,
amend my motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay. Does that cover it for the motion? Okay. Any further discussion? Commissioner Dare, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you for getting this
Thank you
done.
very much.
Explain it. Okay, that completes our action items. We have one other matter we're going to consider under other items. It's been brought.
I could speak to that.
Yeah.
It's just correcting a Scrivener's error. You'll recall last week you had an ordinance in front of you with regard to the allowing childcare, nurseries, and preschools in the Sun River Business Park. Unfortunately, that ordinance number had already been assigned to a prior ordinance that the board adopted back in January. So this is just a Scrivener's error correcting that ordinance 2019-002 to correctly reflect 2019-008. Nothing else has changed, and it just escaped Sharon and I. I'm not sure how we did it, but we
Okay.
missed it, so sorry.
Okay.
So is that a motion that needs to be made, or?
Just be a motion to approve 2019-002 as a replacement to, or I'm sorry, 008 as a replacement to 002 regarding the Sun River Business Park.
So moved.
I second it.
Okay, any further discussion? Commissioner DeBonne?
Yes.
Commissioner Dare?
Yes.
Chair votes yes.
Thank you. Sorry about that. That was,
No problem. That's
First
That's
time
an
I've
easy
ever
one.
seen that, yeah.
it's an easy one to fix, and
yes.
sure it was not intentional. Any other business under other items for this morning? Tom? Okay, see no further business. The meeting is adjourned.